and gentlemen, welcome to this MIPIM Connect session today on the core topic of hotels changing the face of cities through human experience. Really honored to be here. My name is Guy Perdry. I'm the director of CoLive, a global nonprofit organization around co-living, and I'm being joined by three masterminds that have been working on the topic of how to change the hotel experience and make it more human-centered. So today I'm being joined by Carine Bonnejean from Christie & Co, Valérie Parenty by SAGUEZ Partners, and Andrew Renouf from Avison. Thank you so much for being here. And what I suggest, let's give a quick round of introduction to the audience about who you are and why this topic is relevant to you. Maybe Carine, you could go first.
Yes, good morning. My name is Carine Bonnejean, head of the hotel division of Christie & Co. So we basically advise, sell, and value hotels across Europe. Just to give an idea, last year we advised on about £7 billion of hotels. So this topic is very relevant as we continue to support owners and investors into finding opportunity in the hotel sector, and obviously trying to figure out what the future holds and what is a good investment.
Thank you. And today we're actually going to discuss how hotels can differentiate themselves from the current market. Thank you so much. Valérie, please.
Yes, my name is Valérie Parenty. I'm working at SAGUEZ Partners. We are a design firm. We're not a decoration or architect firm. We first think in terms of design thinking in order to understand the consumer behaviors and usage, and then putting a solution in terms of global design. So that's one of our particularity, that we have a transversal look at all the different kind of markets, from retail to airport to railway station, etc., and workspace design, and we come then to hospitality. And hospitality, I think, is really important and interesting topics because it irrigates the whole rest of the sectors. So that's why I think it's really interesting.
100%. And it seems like especially you're involved from a hospitality angle within different verticals, and we're going to dig into those. Yeah. Andrew, please.
Good morning, Guy.
Good morning.
Pleased to be here. Thanks very much. So Andrew Renouf, I'm a director in the hotels team for Avison, which is a multinational commercial property advisory firm. My specialism is in hotel consultancy. I've been with Avison for 9 years, and previous to that, an extensive career in hotel operations. So first-hand experience of the evolution of the sector over too many years. And this is a particularly interesting topic, I think, how hotels are having to adapt, or should be adapting, to the need for the modern traveler for experiential travel and experiential hotel stays, and not just functional ones.
Yes. And so today, what I suggest is we're going to talk about three big angles. One is, what has been this change of demand from the customer side? What has been the changes of values, of mindsets that currently hotels have to face? After that, we're going to see how hotels have been changing their operations, their branding, and their concept, and how they have adapted to that. And eventually, we're going to look into the future, look at what hasn't been done yet and where innovation is needed. For the first question, which is that the hotel experience truly has been changing over the last years, decades. Some of you, as Andrew said, have been working for almost a decade in that field. And maybe, Andrew, it would be great if you could give us a little insight into what has been those changing demands and expectations on the hotel industry, and where has it come from?
Sure. I think what's changing, and it's changing rapidly now, is the expectation of the modern traveler, which, as I just said before, is changed from being one of needing a hotel as a function to be a comfortable bed, a hot shower, a cooked breakfast, to being one of needing an experience. And I would put into that bracket not just leisure travelers, because there's always been an element of experiential travel, although generally at the more affluent end of the market. But I would also put into that bucket now business travelers. All types of travelers want to immerse themselves in an experience rather than just staying in a hotel. So that would be generally, that would sort of represent itself in local culture, local industry, and local history. And that's where I think, for a number of reasons, and I suppose the most prevalent of those is our increased exposure to experiences through social media has, sort of heightened our appetite to experience these things ourselves and share them with our social media crowd. So, there are a number of other reasons why, which we can go into as this chat develops, but ultimately I think the main shift is from that hotels need to respond to is from providing a function to providing an experience.
Yes, thank you. And I guess, Valerie, you wanted to add something, but one thing that we talked about is, as you said, Andrew, it went from functional to experience oriented, but the experience and the expectations are not only tied to the hotel. You mentioned, for example, the local neighborhood, and Valerie, I know that you have been seeing that evolution of expectations also in different verticals, such as, for example, sustainability. What has been like the biggest change, and why do you think that is?
Well, I would say that there are three major changes. First, the fact that we are totally digital. That's the digital revolution that's going on, and that irrigates all the different verticals, I would say. The first is the change of working. The new ways of working also is a big change that will be going on and will be going through the hospitality, because since you can work from anywhere, from your pocket, from your house when you are in the train, everywhere. So that's a very big change and a big opportunity for the hospitality also to deal with this new way of working. The second trend, I think I would say, is the wellness and health trend. Since we all have a more and more holistic approach to your mind, to your spirit, to your body, etc. You want to be treated as a whole, not only functionality. And the third thing is the new way of living also, because there's this. I think we will speak later about this new sense of share value, sense of community they're looking for in your new ways of living. So I would say that these three major trends are going on.
Thank you.
From
Carine.
function to experience.
Yes, thank you. So digital, wellness, and human interaction or community, new ways of living. Carine, how does that resonate, and what have you seen in your approach?
I think we've seen some development over the years, and we've seen a number of hotel chains and that have tried to embrace all of those. I think we're still in the early stages of that development. And it's interesting to see that typically people do not put that just yet in the top criteria when they select hotel or when they look at the future of hotels from a financial perspective. But that clearly a trend that we are seeing more and more. And I think that investors need to understand better and the value of it long term, and not just on the financial return of the properties.
Thank you. What comes out here is that, yes, the hotel experience has been changing, and hotels have been also adapting. We've seen more and more hotels that now, because of digitalization, offer, for example, co-working spaces, that offer yoga classes and go into this wellness trend. Generally speaking, what are the main changes that hotels have undergone in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of which experience they're offering?
Shall I jump in there, Guy?
Yes.
I think the main trend that we've seen in the hotel product over the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years, has been the emergence of the lifestyle brand. And linked to that is the whole social interaction and cultural experience that is desired by the modern traveler. ultimately, you know, there were a few market leaders, notable market leaders, more, you know, 10 years or so ago, you know, Hoxton being a famous example, Ace Hotels, Kimpton, Citizen M, you know, these are hotels that pioneered the social aspect of the hotel stay, and recognized early on that this sort of community spirit for the modern traveler was an important one. And I think, you know, nowadays all the major multinational brands offer a lifestyle product of some description. In fact, many of them offer multiple lifestyle brands because there are upscale, more expensive lifestyle brands, and there are economy lifestyle brands. But I think where hotels now need to improve, you know, they've got that part of it, but where they're not perhaps doing so well is in this social inclusion out with the hotel, which is so important, and the social consciousness, and the guests wanting to experience the local culture, not just the social aspect of the hotel and meeting new people, and that you get through the lifestyle hotel experience. So that's where I think, you know, that there is more work to be done by the hotel sector.
Thank you. Yes, Carine.
Yeah, I agree with that fully. And it's quite interesting what hotels are going through, because with time going by, they're actually trying to remove some of the personal human interaction by having more self check-ins and, you know, facilitating the guest journey, but they're removing some of this human interaction, and they need to reinvent it so that, yes, you don't have to talk to someone on arrival, but people are looking for a different type of human interaction. And I think at this stage, we have not mastered that side of the social experience. Obviously, they're trying to engage with getting more people from the local community that know the restaurant where you could go. But I think we're just really at the beginning of that journey, and there is a lot more people can be done. That can be done on that side, because we're actually trying to remove some of the staff costs from an hotel to make it more profitable, but we need to replace it with something else. So some companies have done big inroads in that space, but there is a lot more you can do, in my view.
Yes, and the trends around like human interaction, how to bring that in, I'd suggest let's tackle that just after. Maybe Valérie, do you have any other concluding thoughts to how hotels have been changing in terms of supply?
I would say also that the sanitary crisis that we have just gone through has accelerated also this rhythm that not only we want to be, we look for human interaction, but also we've been a lot more conscious about the planet, urgency questions, etc. And that's, I think, the thing that makes us much more conscious about our surrounding, our neighbors, the other human people, the things that going on in the planet. That's the another dimension, I think, that will, in the next years, will come and accelerate in all the different fields of the markets. And hospitality has a strong role to play in terms of being more and more local, being more and more respectful to the neighbors and to the local communities that you're dealing with, and also with your employees and salaries. So that's one of the great challenges that hospitality has to face. And I think there are independent initiatives that have been done, but not yet enough.
Now I'm curious, based on that, do you believe that the term hospitality in itself is changing in terms of what people are expecting from it, and how people see hospitality? For example, Carine, you mentioned that because of technology, we're having like user experiences or user flows that now are simplified. You can do self check-in, right? At the same time, the human interaction that are expected today is not the one from, for example, the butler or the person that helps you check in, but potentially a community leader that actually integrates you and welcomes you into the place. What do you think is going to be the future definition of hospitality?
I think it's the emphasis would be very much on the guest journey and the discovery that we're going through. And I think a crucial element would be how you start to better understand your guest, and you link it with someone else that understands your needs. And I think a lot more of that will come from having guest ambassadors or people that really understand what you're all about, not just if you're leisure or a work traveler. What are you actually looking for? And I think, again, that's something people need to work on quite a bit in terms of getting data and get to know you before you come. And then you will have this human interaction.
I think, Guy, you know, in answer to your question around, you know, the word hospitality and what it means, I don't, to me, that doesn't change. I think hospitality is about, you know, giving a service to the guest, you know, making them feel comfortable, all these different things, you know, and ultimately it's about the hospitality providers giving a relevant product and experience to the guests. I think the smart operators, you know, are going to be the ones that can understand the decision making of the guest, you know, what drives them to stay in a hotel and what they want to experience. And I don't think, again, as Carine was saying, I don't think hotel operators are necessarily have all got to that point where they do understand the drivers of the modern traveler. And I think, you know, in terms of the social, going back to the social inclusion, social conscience point, which I think is a really important one, and you know, the sort of overlap of globalization with localization and all those other points. I think the smart hotel operator of the future, or the present as well, is able to say to their guests, what is important to you is important to us as your hospitality provider. And I don't think many of them are in that space at the moment.
What I'm hearing here too is that, I mean, for example, myself, I'm coming from the startup scene where there's a lot of like lean and customer-oriented approaches, and that hotel industry has to listen more to the customers and their needs and understand their needs. Valérie, does that resonate?
What I would say in terms of what could be the future of hospitality, I think hospitality, as we were saying, is more than a building. It's more than a hotel. It's an experience, and when you say it's an experience, then you take out the fact that you're a hotel and you are a building, and that's a really interesting thing, because there are three major trends that you can drive, and that has been already experienced when you come to the word experience. The fact that the hotel is not only a hotel, it's at the service of the town and of the neighbors, as we have seen in the COVID crisis. Thanks to the digital and the fact that her hotels were closed, they were able to deliver all the neighbors with food and food delivery, etc. And it goes much more larger than this, because this savoir-faire of hospitality can export itself to the co-working spaces, to mixed-use buildings and quartier, etc. So that's a very, very interesting savoir-faire that hospitality has. The second thing is that the experience also, it's an encounter, creating long-term links or short-term links between people. So when you have this kind of mixed-use project with community or co-living spaces and hotel, this is very interesting, because you're exporting your savoir-faire of hospitality to all your guests. And thirdly, the fact that it's not linked to a building at all. Now it's getting to the benefit of real outstanding or unforgettable encounter when you come to long journey. For example, I was quoting to you the 700,000 initiative that was done by a former hospitality man who's called Thierry Tessier. And it's a journey that you come from, you go to the Toscano to Cambodia, and you go to one place to the other, and then you get unforgettable encounters, unforgettable places, etc. And it's really a new way of traveling that has not been done yet. So I think it's really interesting that the fact that we come from the hospitality building to the hospitality experience and encounter.
Yes. Now, one question is, what is that experience going to look like, and how to construct it? I'd love to pick up again the main theme here, which is really about understanding the needs of customers. A friend of mine defined hospitality as fundamentally caring about people. And when you look back into the past, hotels usually, as Andrew pointed out, provided more structural, functional solutions to more physiological needs, such as comfort, respect, and now there is an expectation of understanding me as a customer better. I want to come into a place where I'm seen as a human for who I am, and not only for labeled as business traveler or as X. Now, how can hotels implement that? And have you seen any example that is doing that well?
Shall I start?
Go ahead. After.
I think there are some examples in the UK, certainly that I'm aware of, that are doing that well. And I'll pick out, and I talked about how the lifestyle hotel, is pretty well established now, but it's the next step. And I think that, there's a couple of examples of operators who are successfully moving into that next step. And, I'm not sure if they'd be familiar to you out with the UK, but Lock, Apart Hotels, and Birch is a new hotel concept which is being launched in the UK as well. And what they're doing well, and which other brands and operators have aspired to, and not done perhaps as well yet, but it's those sort of bringing the local enterprises into the hotel with pop-up experiences, artisan classes. It's things, extending the wellness offer with, I think you mentioned it, Guy, anyway, with, yoga classes with using a local yoga teacher, artisan and cookery workshops, bringing local artists and local musicians into the hotel, and also going out with the hotel and sort of curated tours of the local workshops and other cultural aspects of the local community. And I think, though, that's where I think these brands that can do that will be seen as being more relevant to the local, the modern traveler. I think that gives them a competitive advantage in a very highly competitive world that hotels are in at the moment. And ultimately, therefore, it makes extremely good business sense to do that. And I would just add as well, I don't think, whereas experiential tourism of old was very much the preserve of the affluent, I don't think these have to be expensive, and I don't think they have to be exclusive. I think they're completely inclusive experiences provided by, local communities, not necessarily provided by the hotel, just facilitated by the hotel.
In your opinion, a hotel is just a platform to empower the local community's development?
It should be.
It should be.
But more often than not, at the moment, they're not. But they should be, and they could be. Yeah.
Valerie, do you have any
Yes,
thoughts?
in Paris also we have the same kind of initiatives as you have in the UK, and are very popular and very successful. We have the Mob Hotel here in Saint-Ouen. It's just 500 meters from here because our agency is based in Saint-Ouen, and they claim to be a pioneer way style of life. Open to everybody. So you have a rooftop, you have a live scene, you have libraries, you have outside people coming and doing the market inside every Sunday, etc. So it's really anchored into the quartier, and you have also a new site that has been opened last October, which is called Le Grand Quartier. It's in the Paris 10th arrondissement, and it's even more anchored into its neighborhood, because you have all the, for example, the restaurants, the cafes is opened by the neighborhood retail shops that are just beside. So you have also a pop-up store with emerging artists. You have a cinema outside. You have rooftop going on, etc. You have yoga classes, etc. So you have this kind of same kind of initiatives, but I would say each time it is unique because it is anchored into the quartier, and it's really making all the local community work thanks to this new kind of hotels. So I think this is really interesting. This is a new, I think, way of doing business, because in fact, it's really successful and bringing business other than selling bedrooms. So
Yes. Carine, maybe would you like, I think you have a bunch of thoughts, especially maybe around also how the human experience can be not only improved, but how hotels can differentiate themselves in that. And maybe you have some examples or a lack of examples, in fact, here to share.
It's when we started discussing that, I just wanted to think about, which hotel I've seen and really made a difference for me. And so I think I've seen a number of examples thinking about it. So I think we've seen the emergence of hotels that employ people that have been homeless or have some past prison, or have had some issue in the past. So that's a way of engaging. And I think people have been quite keen to experience that, just to give other people a chance to have a new job. So we have a few examples of restaurants and hotels in London. The other big trend, obviously, is on the health and fitness side of things. Equinox is one of them, where they've fully integrated for the like-minded people, very determined on health and diet. So I think we see a lot more of that are fully catered to what you expect from a body and mind perspective. And I think in Italy, they've been very good at reinventing some of these villages that has been derelict, and recreating hotels where the local community actually live within the borgo, and they can actually participate into cookery class and festivals and stand-up comedy. So I think that's another big trend. And something else that I think we'll see pick up, which is a bit on the side, but it's everything to do with medical hotels, because we're going to see a rise in patient hotels, where it's a mixture of hotel and hospital care. And I think all of that, we will see more evolution in the next few years. And we started working on some of that in the UK.
As one of the final questions for today, what is the major issue, especially around the human experience aspect and understanding needs? I'll give you an example to frame this question. As we said, hotel users or hotel customers want to be understood better. So, for example, how great would it be if you come to a hotel and somebody welcomes you and just tries to understand you and says like, hi, why are you here? what is your need and how can I help you with? Now, what I'm seeing here is also a big problem that we're having is a cultural one. We're not used to ask for other people's emotional state. We're not used to ask for people's needs directly. And in fact, in hotels, there has been mostly a culture of always respecting and not entering into the privacy of somebody else. But there's no other way to understand the customers if you don't do that. Do you see any, what do you think is the major burdens of hotels changing their mindset? And what would be, if there's one concluding thought that you can give, like one principle, one change of mindset that you would recommend hotel operators and see this industry changing towards, what would it be?
Well, I think, I think it's difficult is my response to that, Guy, because I think, absolutely there's this historic, the way of doing things. Hotels over the last few years have, started putting their staff in casual clothes rather than in uniforms, and just doing that I don't think is sufficient. With the intention, I guess, of being that they do open up and it becomes more of a personal experience. It's not often in our nature, but the fact that it's now becoming a consumer trend, it's not now unusual for people to want to have these personal experiences, means that it should be easier to instill that in the staff as well, I would think, moving forward. But I just, as a sort of parting thought, if I may, I just pick up on something that Valerie said, which was about uniqueness. And I think, what's important in any experience, whether it's in a hotel or whether it's elsewhere, is that it is unique, at least unique to that person. That it's emotional and that it's personal and that it's authentic as well. And these are very, very difficult concepts for hotel management, hotel operators to get to grips with. And that's why I think, there's a sort of lag in this happening. And it's about understanding what those personal drivers are and what motivates us. And there's an awful lot more work to be done in that area by hotel operators.
Thank you, Andrew. Very important. Valerie, yes, please.
Yes, when you say the stake is to find the right balance between privacy and between the way you treat people, I think that we have a very, very good example from the 5-star, the Palace Hotel. Like we're working right now for the Ritz Hotel Ritz in Paris, and the service that they provide, when you come to the hotel, they know your name because you're in a palace and you are custom. They treat you, they shoot you. I think it's really a very good example of the way that they treat people, but with a lot of benevolence, with a lot of kindness, and same time leaving the privacy of people. So this kind of a service that you get in the palace, of course, it's really unique because you're in the top of the range in the luxury business. But you can get this back thanks to the digital, because digital knows everything from your life, because you give everything in your life with the digital things. So that's a good example of a service that you can, I think, when you come back to human experience in order to train people to get to these values, I think.
Well, thank you, Valerie. And Carine, we'd love to hear your concluding thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think there is a lot you can do. It requires a lot of investment, and that's typically where only some of the big brands can afford to do this. Through data and every day now we've got application that tracks our stress level. They track everything we've been eating and how many calories we can take for the rest of the day. So if you had access to that data, obviously you can create a more bespoke experience. But I think as the hotel industry has grown, they need to go back to basic. And as Valérie said, I think sometimes it's just a question of having individual responses to people, and sometimes just one small thing can make a difference to an hotel stay. And that's typically one thing you remember. So I think people need also, when you don't have the money, even for a small hotel, I think you can actually do something, but they need to put the art into it. And it's not just about financial matters.
Thank you for sharing. As a recap, what I'm hearing, especially from today, is that shift from functional to more areas of care, including authenticity, personalization, kindness. And that is really being seen in different verticals, right? Not only in the user experience of like the customer, but also of the neighborhood, and how hotels can become more holistic in the service of the wider population. Thank you so much. It was a big pleasure having you today. I know we can continue this conversation for hours, and what I suggest is anyone who's interested to directly reach out to you. Personally want to thank you, and also to thank MIPIM for hosting this. And I suggest to see you on the next panel.